Hi, Dr. Murlock here. Kind of want to make this video for a while. I've been crunching numbers on scores for a couple months now, and I've had some pretty interesting insights. Um, so, for those unfamiliar, this is Pump It Up Scores is a website that I make. It started off as a kind of score tracking website. It's evolved into, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just whatever tools I find innovative and that I think will help, I'll throw into here. And some of them help, and then some of them don't, and I'll just scrap them and move on to the next one. Um, but yeah, so one of the ventures I kind of set off down and has been actually pretty insightful is the idea of the scoring level on charts. Um, Basically, the core assertion that I was making, the hypothesis that I had, was that these levels that we see in the game, they are based on um, how hard something is to pass, which for the most part they're pretty accurate. I think there's a lot of things that most people would agree are off by a level, but talking about Showdown D22 in the same. Wait, hold on. This is personalized. Let me turn that off. Talking about Tomboy or Overdrive or Showdown in the same breath that you're talking about Takeout, Takeout, Witch Doctor, Pavane. It's not too far fetched. They are drastically different, but they're not like, I would say they're off by a level at most. Um, but so my hypothesis was that while this has all been based on passing level, the difficulty to score a chart is drastically off. Scoring Tomboy is a completely different world than trying to score take out D22. Like, completely uncomparable. You cannot put those in the same breath. So I went down this long journey uh, of first I needed to identify players that are good at competitive or competitively good at a particular level. Um, and that's like a whole video for another time, is kind of talking through that algorithm and how you identify what level you're competitively good at. Brief spoilers, it's based on the same algorithm we're using for the Beast in the East qualifiers. Um, but so once I have that, and once we had confidence in that, I was able to sort of take a look at weighted averages that highlight people that are more competitive at a particular level, and kind of you know minimize the impact from people that might be too good or not good enough to really be weighed as meaningful data within that level. And I I crunch all these numbers. I break down these averages of surrounding folders. So this is talking about an S20, and it's comparing it to scores that people who are competitive at 20s got on surrounding folders. Um, and then what you end up with is like end of the world S20 here. For someone who's playing S20s, it actually scores comparatively to their 19s scores. So end of the world S20 is overrated by one level when it comes to scoring. Um, and so I initially was like, cool, that's like a great takeaway. I was looking at some of the results, and some of them felt weird to me. And what I eventually realized I answered was not necessarily that End of the World is a 19 for scoreability purposes. What I realized is it's a 19 for people who are playing 20s. And what I then went into is, well, how does it average out if instead of using the weighted averages of people playing 20s, you try it for people playing 21s or 22s or 23s or even 17s, 18s, and 19s. And the results were really interesting for some charts. Some charts were like, oh yeah, this is straightforward and plays like a 20 for everyone. But other ones, End of the World is a good example, actually. I'm kind of glad I picked it. Um, is so we already established that it plays like a 19 for people playing 20s. The score is comparable to 19s for them. Um, Higher level players, it actually plays harder for them than other 20s. It scores more like a 21 for them. Um, and Lower level players find it even easier. It throws them all sorts of free perfects, so they're getting a comparable score to their other 17s. Um, Basically, the higher the level of player you are, the harder you're going to find End of the World to score in relation to your other S20s and your other S21s. And this was like kind of an interesting conclusion. And you could see the opposite is true for something like Gargoyle D23, where no, better example, huh? Dement S23. Gargoyle D23 is just hard for everyone. Dement S23 has sort of the opposite reaction where people breaking into the song, I can't believe there's someone competitive at 20s that managed to pass this monster, but it's comparable to a 24 to them. And the higher the level you are, the easier it becomes. People competitive at 23s and 24s find Dement to be sort of a mid 23. It's pretty easy. Someone who's just barely breaking into the 23 folder, which is what this range is going to be, 21 people competitive at 21s and 22s, or they typically find it to be one of the harder 23s to score. They end up with lower scores in it compared to their other 23s, and it plays more like a 24 to them. But yeah, higher level players find it not mindlessly easy, but it's pretty mid for 23s for them. So that was kind of an interesting takeaway, and kind of the big thing being that when you're asking, well, blank is easy to score, blank is hard to score, it's not a flat answer. It actually needs more context. You have to say, like, there's a couple different questions you can ask. You could say, like, is it easy to score for people go breaking into the folder? Easy to score for people who have mastered the folder? Is it easy to perfect game? I think End of the World S20 is an easy way you could see this. Is you go to the leaderboard, which the top 100, leaderboard on here, and of there's not a lot of perfect games on here. Like, you got some pretty good scores, but there's, compared to other 20s, there are not a lot of perfect games. And these leaderboards up until about 24s are typically good representations of, like, how hard something is to perfect game or perfect. So yeah, that was an interesting takeaway. And might help when people are, I've seen conversations where someone's like, oh, blank is really easy, I get pretty good scores on that, and someone else is like, what are you talking about, that's really hard. It's like, and they talk about like a specific part of the song that constantly gives them a miss or a bad, but like the rest of it's really easy to them. And it's like you're talking from two different angles. You're talking about, a lower level player that's breaking into it and got some free holds, and it has mostly overall easy sections, and they're pulling off a AAA on it. And then you're talking from the other perspective is like someone who's perfecting it and is going for the perfect game, and it's constantly screwing them over. Like, two completely different questions with two completely different answers. So that's one takeaway. The other one is, so I ran the algorithm for how hard something is to score based on people who are competitive at its listed, at its official difficulty range. And what I ended up with is an interesting outcome where there is not cohesivity in how hard or easy charts are to score within a folder. Like, there's roughly relationship. Like, it's not like you ever end up with something playing like a 12 when it's listed as a 22, but you do end up with things sometimes being off by like 5 levels. I've seen 13s that people have comparable scores to their 18s on. Like, let's look at the D22 folder here. Like, 87 is comparable to harder 19s for most people competitive at 22s, and then you come all the way down here, and you know, Extreme Book of the War, Extreme Book of the War is comparable to their scores on harder 25s. Like, there's not any cohesion between how hard something is to score in these folders. And basically, the big takeaway, the reason I've wanted to make this forever, is when you're plowing through these folders and passing all the crazy shit and being a legend and knocking these titles out, like, don't be demotivated when you're plowing through the 20s folder and you get a relatively easy pass on login, but get a shitty score. Because that's not you. Like, it's not that you're bad at scoring 20s. It's that login's not an S20. It should not be compared to your scores on other S20s. They're complete different classes. Like, you can't compare the nonsense accuracy you need to pull those drills off versus the free holds you get on 86 Fool Song, which plays like a 17 to most people. Scoring wise, once again, not passing wise, scoring wise. Like, you simply can't compare them. So don't be demotivated. The levels were not designed around scoring. You know, what you should typically be aiming for is being confident probably on like half a folder. If you can have like half a folder that you're getting AAA or better on, you're probably in a good spot for that folder. Don't worry about AAAing everything before you move on to the next folder, because that's only going to be holding you back. If you can master the techniques to be getting great scores in some of the harder shit in this folder, like if you're stopping and taking the time to learn how to do Loki, can help you. Wicked Legend's a good one to pull off. All this stuff. You will become a better player for getting better at it, but don't let that hold you back, and don't let it demotivate you or make you think that you're not good at 20s just because some of this harder stuff is not working for you. So that's the that's everything I wanted to talk through today. Hopefully I can make more of these to sort of talk through all the data analysis I've done. And yeah, if you are interested in sort of being able to and analyze your own personal capabilities based on how hard some of these things are to score, yeah, hit up PIU scores.arrow eclipse, and then yeah, have a great day.